Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Rachel and I am really glad you're here. So let me start today with a question. Have you noticed how much talking is happening right now and how little listening seems to be going on? Everyone has an opinion. Everyone has a platform. Everyone is explaining, defending, reacting, and yet we don't seem to understand each other any better. And yes, I totally realize the irony of saying this on a YouTube channel where I sit here and talk. But lately, the thing that's been changing my life the most is listening more and talking less. And before you roll your eyes, these videos aren't really about me talking at people. They're about slowing things down enough that we can all hear ourselves think again. Because most of what I talk about here actually comes from listening. Listening to conversations I'm a part of. Listening to what people say casually and what they repeat. Listening to what keeps showing up when people are tired, overwhelmed, or trying really hard to sound certain. Even listening to music. And the more I pay attention, the more I notice something that feels important. You can't really think critically if you're not listening. Because if you're not actually taking things in, other perspectives, new information, uncomfortable details, you're not thinking, you're just reacting. Critical thinking needs space. It needs a pause. And it's almost impossible to do it when you are constantly talking, reacting, or lining up your next response. I think that's one reason we talk so much. Silence makes us uncomfortable. Silence leaves room for awkwardness, for uncertainty, for things we haven't sorted out yet. So we fill the space. Not because we're all rude or self-centered, though some people, yeah, maybe a smidge. But a lot of times it's because we don't quite know what to do with the quiet. And we've all been in conversations like this. Someone's nodding along, but you can already tell that they are halfway into their reply in their head. You've probably done it. I know I have. They're not always trying to dominate the conversation, though. Sometimes they're just eager or nervous or trying to connect. That very human urge to say, me too, I get it. But the effect is, we miss a lot. And when we're doing that, we're not really listening. We're just waiting. And when you're waiting instead of listening, you miss nuance, context, meaning. When I was a kid, my dad used to tell me that I would talk just to hear myself talk. And the funny thing is, I was good at talking, but I didn't actually like it. Looking back, I think it was a mix of my ADHD and a nervous habit that I just perfected. Maybe I was trying to sound relevant. Maybe I was trying to get attention in a really big family. Who knows? Whatever the reason, I sucked at listening. And that habit followed me into adulthood. I eventually realized that really listening isn't something that just comes naturally. It's an acquired skill. When you build over time, it takes effort, empathy, paying attention, really hearing what someone said, especially if your brain moves fast like mine does. And honestly, the talking served me well. Politics, speech writing, human resources, sales. Talking worked. It paid the bills. But just because something works doesn't mean it's always healthy. And I think we see that pattern everywhere now. Take politicians, and I am not trying to make this political, just a human observation. It's a lot of talking, a lot of messaging, a lot of certainty, and very little listening. The perfect example of talking to hear yourself talk. Part of the reason silence doesn't work in that world is because talking looks like confidence, and silence, for some, looks like weakness. It looks like uncertainty. It looks like you don't have control of the room. So the pressure is to always keep talking, to keep explaining, to keep sounding certain, even when they aren't. But that constant talking doesn't leave much room for listening. And without listening, critical thinking doesn't stand a chance. There's that saying that you can't bullshit a bullshitter. The idea that if you're good at persuasive talking, you're immune to the response yourself. But research suggests that you can, in fact, bullshit a bullshitter. Easily, actually. People who are fluent in bullshit are the ones that are most likely to fall for it themselves, because once confidence becomes the focus, truth tends to take a back seat. And that in itself makes them more susceptible to the same kind of things that they dish out. Listening interrupts that. It slows things down. It forces the pause. It creates a little friction where you can ask, wait, is this actually true, or do I just like how it sounds? This isn't a new idea at all. The Stoics talked about restraint, not because words are bad, but because constant talking turns into constant reacting. Epictetus warned about talking more than necessary. I mean, if you can't control your mouth, you usually can't control your mind either. If you can't pause, you can't choose your response. And if you can't choose, you're not really thinking. Buddhism talks about something called right speech, and most people don't actually know what that means. It's not just about being polite or not lying. It's more like asking, is this true? Is it helpful? Is this the right time? And is it actually necessary? And sometimes the best answer to all of those questions is silence. Not passive silence, intentional silence. Taoism points to the same idea. Lao Tzu wrote about how wisdom doesn't need to announce itself. Not because understanding makes you quiet, but because when you really understand something, you don't need to prove it. Different traditions, same basic human problem. We talk to manage discomfort and fill silence. We talk to be seen, but listening does something talking cannot. When you really listen, people tell you who they are, not who they're trying to be, not who they want you to think they are. Listening does not make you weaker. It doesn't make you invisible. It doesn't mean you have nothing to say. Listening actually makes you harder to manipulate, more discerning, more grounded. It gives you the space to notice what's real instead of just reacting to what's loud. And that doesn't mean you need to stop talking. You don't need to become quieter or smaller. It just means that when you do speak, it comes from clarity instead of urgency. Could you imagine what this world would be like if people actually listened more, and maybe some of them talked a little bit less? If we really heard what other people were saying, not just what we wanted to hear. Listening more isn't going to fix everything, but I do think it makes us smarter, more compassionate, and it changes how we show up in the world. And sometimes, I think that's where the real change starts. Okay, thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. Take care of you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.